Well, hey folks, my name is Brad Martin, and 6 months ago, back in November, I hiked up into the mountains of Vermont with my metal detector to search a piece of land that I thought perhaps could hold a 1700s home foundation. When I got there, turns out there was no home foundation, but I found what I consider the most amazing thing I've ever found metal detecting. A silver medallion with a name and a birth date. I was able to use that name and birth date to trace lineage all the way back to England and all the way forward to the present day. Today, I've returned to the Pines to see what else we can find, things that may or may not have once belonged to Anna or her family. Last time I was here, I spent an entire day metal detecting, and at the end, all I had was a small handful of items, including, of course, the pendant and 2 amazing coins. Today, I plan to dig absolutely every target I come across with my metal detector. The good ones, the bad ones, and everything in between. I suspect we're gonna wind up with a lot of garbage at the end of the day, but everything will hopefully tell a story, and that's what I'm after today. I'm gonna get my metal detector out, see what I can find. All right, very first target. As I mentioned, I'm digging everything. This was an iron tone, and it winds up being an old chain. It is obviously falling apart. It's been in the ground for a couple hundred years, but it's interesting. We'll add it to the list of stuff we're finding today and look at it all at the end. Cool. Well, I haven't found many buttons here. Typically we find a lot of buttons in farmers' fields, around farmers' homes, because they were constantly working and breaking those off. This place, which I believe to be like a gathering place for the patrons of the stagecoach stop, you wouldn't expect people to be popping buttons off their shirts and coats. But I did just find one, and look at that. It's a little tiny floral button. It makes your mind race if this could have been Anna's. Can't know for sure, but I'm gonna believe it is. So cool. All right, I'm kind of down in this little muddy area, and I just got what I believe is a key. Now, the first time I was here, I found what I thought was like a clock winder, and it had a very particular shape to it that I was unfamiliar at the time, and it wound up being a barrel tap key to open up the tap on a barrel for probably beer or water, I suppose. And I just found this key, and it is hollow in the end. So, is this a key? Is it, I don't think it's another barrel tap, but is this a winder? You folks let me know. I'm fairly certain this is a key, like a key to a home, but that's a great find. The end is broken off, of course. That's a great find. Interesting. I wonder if this was dropped by a person or if there was a structure with a lock here. I haven't really been finding nails and such to indicate a structure, but another clue. So as I had mentioned in the first video, when I actually found the pendant, this area is extremely thick with these small pines. Because of that, it's really hard to swing the metal detector around, but this time I'm really trying to get under those as much as I can. I came in the very early spring. It's only April, so a lot of the undergrowth has not grown yet. I think that's why I'm starting to find a few more things than I did last time. Still though, it's extremely slow going. Complete silence until every once in a while you get a tone. Again, everything I find is telling a story. Mosquitoes and black flies are out now, but I'm having a great time. Let me see what else I can find here. All right, another somewhat shallow iron tone here, and it winds up being what I believe to be, a fork, an eating utensil. It is iron, and I've never seen one with this kind of peculiar shape to it, but I do believe that this is an eating utensil. It's missing one of its tines. So that's interesting. We had assumed that they were eating and drinking in this location due to the barrel tap. So this might be from the same get-together that Anna was at. I don't know, let's see what else we can find. Well, I was a little on the fence whether that fork, that iron fork, was in fact a fork. You know, there were thousands and thousands of different iron tools and different things back then that could have been, but this is without a doubt the broken handle to a very old 1700 spoon. Again, goes along with the story that folks were gathering here, eating, drinking. Spoon broke and or was lost to the ground here. It's not much, but it's certainly something to go along with the story. It's a good sign that there are at least a few more non-iron targets out here. See if we can find some more. Now, in the second episode of what seems to be becoming a series, I discussed what I think this place may have been. Since there was no home, there's no stones, no stone walls, doesn't seem like there was a structure here, so I hypothesized that it may have been an outdoor gathering place for the stagecoach stop that's about 1/8 of a mile that way. And over the last 6 months, I've gave it even more thought, and you can imagine in July and August, they had no air conditioning back then. So if they were going to be cooking in the daytime or even in the evening, oftentimes they would have an outdoor place to do that. The spoon and fork certainly point to that direction. People were outdoors eating. We're gonna keep going here, see if we can find a few more things. Well, the non-iron tones are few and far between, so I'm going to film this one. It's probably a modern bullet or something uninteresting, but we'll find out together. Just in case it isn't, we'll film it. This. Whoa. I have no idea. I have never really seen anything quite like this, metal detecting. It appears to be brass. It appears to be complete somewhat. It's ornate. Interesting shape to it. Don't know. Interested to hear what you folks think. A mystery. Okay, I got a very quiet, deep target. And it winds up to being one of these. This is just one piece of an umbrella mechanism. It's unclear what part of it this was, whether it slid or whether it was the top cap, but this is definitely part of an umbrella or, a sun parasol. Interesting. All right, well, it seems like people would have spent quite a bit of time in this location for them to maybe leave an umbrella or a parasol leaning up against a tree and forget about it, and then it decomposes into the ground. Interesting. I bet if I look, there'll be more of it here. We'll see. Great. Alright, I'm kind of in the thick of it here, battling a tree right next to me, but I've got a great target right here. That is a straight 85 on the dais. We're going to dig carefully, slowly, since that gets fairly close to the surface right here. It's right here. I feel it. It is a little disc of some kind. Unfortunately, the soil is extremely wet here. It does not treat items very well. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think this is a button. Usually there'll be remnants of the shank here. It might be, I guess, a 1/2 cent because it is so small. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, brush it with my toothbrush, and maybe we can get to the bottom of it. All right, well, I have no idea. I do believe it to be a coin. There's no evidence of a shank whatsoever. And due to its extremely small size, I have to suspect it is either a US 1/2 cent, or I suppose it could also be a British farthing. It sounded great on the metal detector. I wish that it looked great as well, but we can take what we can get. If it does happen to clean up whatsoever at home, I will certainly throw a picture up of it on the screen. but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Still excited about it for sure. So it has been quite slow. We're getting kind of towards the end of the day, and the targets are very few and far between. So I decided to kind of walk towards the stagecoach stop a little bit and a little bit in the opposite direction. And I'm starting to find more and more buttons, which certainly seems to point towards this being farmland at some point. Now, the area where I found the pendant certainly seems to be its own thing with, you know, the eating utensils and the barrel tap, but they certainly would have had to walk between that point and the stagecoach stop, and so they could have lost things there too. I'm going to keep going back and forth, zigzagging as I go, see if we can find a few more things. Okay, I got a target that is, or was, up in the roots of this black birch. I thought for sure it was going to be a bullet, you know, because oftentimes we find bullets lodged in trees or wood or logs or whatever. And it's not. This is a piece of an oil lamp. And it's an older style. It's not the kind that you would see with the spinner. And in fact, it seems to have the, I guess, iron tubes. There would have been 2 wicks in this. The good target that my metal detector heard was this brass ring. You know, it goes along with the story. They were out here probably into the evening. Would have needed some light to find their way back to the stagecoach stop, to the inn. Not necessarily a very interesting object in and of itself, but it goes along with the story. Okay, so this was an iron tone, and I thought it was going to be a utensil, but it turns out to be a very kind of stylized hinge. A small iron hinge, and it has like a little, like a loop right here. So I'm wondering if this was to like a box, a small box, traveling trunk, or really the possibilities are endless, but that's a pretty cool find. And we find hinges for barn doors all the time, but very rarely are they very kind of small and interestingly shaped like this. It's a good find. Well, I'm not sure how I missed this target the first time through, but it was a loud, nice target, and check that out. This thing is absolutely mangled, but it is a bell. So these are oftentimes called a Conestoga bell. On the shafts of either a Conestoga wagon or up here in the mountains, Vermont, in the wintertime, a sleigh. So that is an incredible find. Adds to the story that there was probably a wagon parked up in this area, probably bringing the barrel. I lost a bell. So cool. Wish it was in better shape, but it tells a story, that's for sure. All right, folks, well, it's looking like rain, so we're going to call it a day. And I think that this will probably be the last time we come to the Pines searching for artifacts left by Anna and her family. I've been going for about an hour and a half with nothing worth showing the camera. That being said, I found quite a few things today. I'm a bit surprised by how much I found considering what I found last time, but that's what happens when you dig absolutely everything. Got it all laid out here. Let's take a look. All right, so nothing that I would consider an incredible find all in of itself. No silver pendants or Nova Constellatio copper coins, but everything we found today could potentially, possibly be tied back to Anna and her family. So all of these things are treasures to me. Starting from the back, we have the big old brass Conestoga wagon bell, possibly carrying the barrel from which the barrel tap key I found came from. We have a hinge to what appears to be a small box, a couple eating utensils, a lamp part. We found 11 buttons this time. The earliest style tomback that we find around here to kind of a late 1800s with a ton of gold gilt still on the back. It's unclear which of these came from the farmers that worked this land and which came from the patrons. It's impossible to say for sure. We had a couple horse tack buckles off here on the side, along with just 2 square nails that I found. have a parasol mechanism. This really interesting, whatever it is, fragment of a key, which again, it doesn't appear there was a structure, so it was most likely opening a door in the stagecoach stop. And then last but not least, the very small copper coin, potentially a US half cent, although it's so absolutely thin, I'm leaning towards a small British farthing. A slow day, but all of these things tell the story of this place, and I was more than happy to find them. All right, folks. Well, I want to thank you for watching what's becoming an ongoing saga of Anna and her pendant. And while I'm not quite sure where it ends, hopefully you'll join me on the journey. See you next time.